Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. The Woodpreneur podcast is proudly sponsored by Energy, an ERP software for custom mill workshops. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Steve. Today's guest is Kris Reynolds from Reynolds Custom Woodworks. How you doing, Kris?
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
I'm good. Where are you located?
I'm in Winslow, Maine, which is in the central part of the state, about an hour north of Portland, which is our largest city.
Cool. Very cool. Tell me about your business. How'd you get started?
We're a custom cabinet shop. We build and install custom cabinetry for builders and homeowners. The business started in 2005, became official in 2005, but I've been woodworking since about 2002. And the way it all got started, it's an interesting story because I had no woodworking background at all. But grew up on a farm. My kids are the 8th generation to live in my house, if you could believe that. And
Wow.
so I always did a little bit of everything, a pretty good mechanical mind. But long story short, we wanted a table in one of the hallways upstairs in the house, and we couldn't find one that would fit. So I thought, I'll try to make one. And that was it for me. I was hooked. And it kind of came natural. I was able to sort out design. I was able to come up with joinery, and I was hooked. So it started off kind of as a furniture making operation. A lot of the items in our house, and of course, then friends want stuff. And then I got asked to build a kitchen for a friend of mine in like 2004, where I was like, I want to build cabinets. And then here we are today. We do about 35 to 40 a year. So we're smallish, but we're a pretty good sized operation.
How big is the team?
We've got between guys on the floor and my install subcontractors, there's 11 of us.
Wow. And it all started because you just took it and then it started from custom furniture and then it turned into cabinet. Was there something about the cabinet space that really spoke to you?
Not necessarily. I was getting a better return on my investment, so to say. I was able to turn on more of a profit on cabinetry in the beginning. And now that's really all we do. We'll do an occasional piece of furniture for a past client every once in a while. But by and large, it's kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, custom built-ins, anything that has drawers and doors and shelves. That's what we do.
Wow. And how are you getting most of your business? Is it referrals? And
I do a fair amount of advertising online. I use Google AdWords. I've tried doing some social media stuff for paid advertising with, marginal success. But of course, like everyone will say, we've been doing this long enough that referrals really do make
people know
our work. We'll end up doing a bunch of kitchens on a particular street in Massachusetts for neighbors. And we kind of spread out from there. So we kind of have little pods of areas that we do a lot of work in often.
And then one person, they're like, oh, I like that. Who'd you get? Yeah. And what's the mindset of a custom cabinet person versus somebody that buys, some pre-built?
I know a lot of because I ask all the time, why me? I mean, we're doing a kitchen in Maryland right now. We're getting ready to it down to Florida. And it's like, why?
Are you installing too?
Yeah. So I've put my crew on the road quite often. I mean, we're often in Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I mean, we're all over. But I ask them all the same question. It's like, why me? I mean, there's got to be people in your area that do this sort of work. And more often than not, it's, we saw a picture on your website and that's what we wanted. And we go from there. I've got a YouTube video series that I put out probably in like 08 or 09. And a lot of people kind of gravitated to that when it first came out. And we're still getting work from that, 14 years later.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's been an interesting ride.
What's been the challenge of your model and what you've been doing?
I'm out of space here at the shop. We're pretty much maxed out. I, like an idiot, every time I put an addition on the shop, I always didn't make it big enough. The adage, you never have enough space, is so true. And we're gearing up for another addition next summer. But another
Okay.
32 feet onto the shop, more for storage. We'll end up having, sometimes we can have 5 or 6 sets on the floor that are ready for install, and we're running out of place to put things. And I'd like to bring in some more equipment and more employees. We're at a stage right now where it's time to grow again.
What were those first couple critical hires?
I needed, at the time when I first started, like probably a lot of people you speak with, this was not my full-time gig. This was just kind of a part-time gig. I was a school teacher. I taught high school physics for 10 years while I got this business going.
You give off teacher vibes. Like you give off somebody that I would have liked to learn from, like firm, but like nice, right? Like you would help if you needed.
I enjoyed the camaraderies with the kids, but I also liked getting my message across. But, physics, I was a really hands-on teacher. We were always taking something apart and putting it back together. It was great. So my first real hire, it's the same guy that I have now. We met in college, actually. Story as I went to math class and I didn't have a pencil, so I had to ask him for a pencil. And then we became good buddies. Brought him in full-time, probably in 2008 or 9. And now he's the shop.
But it was a bit from 2005 to 8.
I would come home, I would take off my Mr. Reynolds clothes and I would put on my woodworker Reynolds clothes and work the night shift. Yeah. It was a rough 5 years, but it had to happen for me to get where I am.
What did this guy do? Was he admin or was he like?
He was help. I would produce work the night before and he would come in and execute the plan for the day.
Gotcha. So you were working full time and you hired a full time person.
Yeah.
All right. That's smart. I like that. That's really
it was
smart.
A good move at the time. I'm not a person to take on a bunch of debt. So I really had to have that full-time gig for the 5 years of the overlap so I could bring in more equipment, have that hire and keep product going out the door so I could get paid.
Yeah. That's cool. And then the sort of second and third hire?
The next guy was, I brought in a full-time finisher. We do all of our finishes in-house because as woodworkers, we all think that we're great finishers, but that's not necessarily the case. And the guy, that's what he did, full time was important for us and being able to have control of the product as well. I really didn't want to outsource my finishing because that's really what you're putting your name on at the end of the day.
Yeah. That's cool. And then what was this sort of next stage of growth after that? So like you hired a couple of people. Was it like shop? Was it equipment? Was it like
always upgrading equipment? We've the last couple like hobby shop tools, the shop, and we brought in some heavier iron to do a lot of the processes that we do here. I'm a big fan of if you need 2 tools, you get them, because it's going to save in tear down times when we're swapping between door profiles. We like to have dedicated machines. But again, we're running out of space and that's always a premium here. It seems my part-time job, actually what I tell all the guys in the shop, my favorite thing to do in the shop now is to make space, try to create space in certain areas of the shop. We try to run as lean as possible here, but at the same time, we have to be realists because there are 6 guys on the shop floor and we're finding those bottlenecks now because we are experiencing those growing.
And now that you got 11 people, what's your role?
So I am responsible. I'm sitting at my desk right now. I'm responsible for marketing and sales. I am responsible for the timeline on the shop floor. I spend most of my time either on the phone, in front of my computer, or in the cab of my truck driving around to meet with customers.
Given the fact that you started this job to build, how do you feel with what you originally started versus how are you reconciling that with your responsibilities now? First of all, do you like that question?
Yeah, no, that's a good question because do I wish I was out there getting sawdust on me all day long? Not necessarily. Do I miss making things? Absolutely. And that's why I still have roles in the shop, like making custom hoods. That's my thing. They're all different I get to be out there and it makes more sense for me to build than to try to explain when the other guys can be hammering out the things that they do on a daily basis. So I still do get dusty, maybe once a week. that's really where I am now.
And it seems like a good
It
time.
is for me. I get to keep up with my, keep my skills in top form. So I'm still out there and I've got a pretty good handle on how the operations work. But again, I'm always up for new ideas. We have meetings often to talk about those things, but I'm a business owner now. I'm not just a woodworker.
Yeah. 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 I get it. There's a lot of people that, I always push people to get to where you're at and then more, because if you're not growing, you're dying. Yep. And if you're not growing and you try to stay this, one person family run type thing, like you're going to get taken over or put out of business by somebody that has a bigger vision.
Yep. I agree.
Right?
I agree.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's something that I appreciate. I appreciate how you not just invested in yourself, but you invested in somebody else, your guy from college, and like you bet on him,
yep.
right? To take care of the thing while you were at your day job. And then you eventually sort of went over. Like that kind of says a lot about you.
It was hard to do. I'm not going to lie. To relinquish.
You had to pay somebody a chunk of money, right?
Relinquish control too. I'm a very type A personality. So that was my biggest hurdle, honestly, when the business was in its infancy, was letting go, allowing someone else to take things to fruition. And it was one of the greatest moves I've ever made.
Hey, what was your first major project? Do you remember the one? What was the project where you were like, heck yeah, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going all in.
I lucked out. I mean, all of this is a lot of the, a business success in the beginning is luck. Let's face it. And I got lucky and I was able to be part of this giant project that involved 3 kitchens, a bunch of built-ins, a bunch of bathroom vanities. And at the time I was working out of a garage, 800 square feet. I had all the tools shoehorned in here. So 2 people could work, 3, absolutely not. Yeah. We weren't doing any in-house finishing. And over the course of 11 months or so, we worked on this project slowly until it was completed. And then, you send that final invoice out, you're going to get this giant check. And it's like, what do I do now? But I used that money to put on an addition. We built a pretty sizable addition. It was 54 by 40 feet. That's not small.
You own where you work right now?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a,
it's funny you say it. So the goal, correct me if I'm wrong, probably at this stage, 11 employees, I think you can resonate with this goal. The goal isn't necessarily the work. The goal is to build something that potentially outlasts you, or to build something that has a value, right?
Oh, yeah.
That whether it runs independent of you or not, the goal isn't to necessarily pass it on to your kids, but it's really about building this thing, taking care of your people, and having this incredible asset, right? So much so that so I'll tell you this story. Tell me if this resonates. I met a guy here in Chicago. Still got to get him on the podcast. From Chef to Table. Shout out to him. He was telling me he was in the process of buying his building. And he said, I go to all of these old woodworking auctions, right? And I buy, really expensive old tools and machinery from folks. And there's 2 types of people. And he goes, I like to talk to the people that I buy them from at these auctions. And he goes, there's 2 types of people. The first person is the old employee who's retired and he's selling his equipment and he needs the money because he's closed down his business. His business is no longer working. He's closed down his business and he needs the money to continue living. The other person is a person who sold their business. They're selling their equipment and they sold their building that they're in. So they're going to take all that money and they're going to go and retire in Florida.
Right.
And he goes, I want to be that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
does that story resonate with where you're at?
Yeah. I mean, that should be the goal of any business owner is not, you don't own a job, you own a business, and businesses are worth something. Intellectual value. I mean, the equipment's worth something, but I think the name and the brand is more than anything else. In the building, sure. I don't see myself being here forever. In fact, I looked at putting up a giant building next summer, a 20,000 square foot plant, and really making that jump. And I saw the price tag and it was like, let's wait a little bit. but still owning the building here. Once I'm in a new space, I'll lease it, I'll sell it, I'll do whatever. It's part of my portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, man. So, hey, this is a part of the podcast where I answer any marketing or business questions that you have. So is there anything that you're struggling with or a challenge that has recently come up that you'd like an extra set of ears and eyes on?
I am terrible at maintaining a social media presence. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 44, so I'm not a dinosaur, but I'm also, honestly, when I look at all these guys that I follow on Instagram, videos, and I'm like, how do you have time for regular work?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to hire somebody to do that because it's my name. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a lack of followers. I don't know if it's a lack of me not caring, but me not putting in the time. So I'm definitely struggling with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you and I appreciate that question because it's like, I go into these ruts too. Like you're literally building the business, right? And you're like, I don't know how I have time for anything else. And so there's a guy named Grant Cardone, who's a big sort of online influencer guy. And he was like, he just kind of makes it part of his everyday. So like he'll be sitting down, take a photo, take a short video. And videos don't need to be long. Videos can be like 15 seconds. It's kind of like, how do you get good at social media, or how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time.
Yep.
It's the same thing with social media. It's like a picture here, a 15-second video here explaining something, right? Like it could be like taking out your phone and taking a picture of this screen right here and then posting it as a story. So like if anybody's like listening to this and there's like struggling with where to get started by putting 1 to 2 to 3 things on stories daily. Stories. You know what's the best part about stories? They're gone in 24 hours.
Right.
Nobody remembers them. And what that does is build up the repertoire and the skill set of just being able to put out content. I created a challenge for myself that I wanted to share a thought and a life lesson every day. And I did that every day for a year because I wanted to build up the ability to respond to things and to talk. It's a skill that you need to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Young people now, they have that skill. It's just so easy for them. It wasn't what we grew up with.
Right.
Right? Like in our 20s, it wasn't about that. It was about, we were doing other things. So literally it's a skill that we need to develop. And I would say the first skill that I would do is to like literally take your phone right now. Take your phone.
I'm looking at my phone right now.
Oh, you're on your phone.
Yeah.
Take a screenshot. Take a screenshot. Take a screenshot.
Back. Got it.
Did you take it?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then post it and use your Facebook personal page as a way to do it.
Okay.
Your Facebook personal page. Don't worry about Instagram yet, right?
Yeah.
Like Instagram's another, but you just need to like develop that natural ability to just converse and share your thoughts. But it all starts with photos.
Mm-hmm.
You share little photos. Then you share some 15-second videos where you're talking about something, right? Maybe you turn the camera on you. Maybe you take a picture with you and take a selfie of the day with the team. Oh, because for me, I think about you and I'm like, you have a lot of pride in what you do. You love what you do and you're good at it. You're really good at it. You're so good at it. It kind of pisses you off that more people didn't know how good you are at it.
I like that. Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yes.
And so for me, I'm like, just start flexing a little bit more. You built something amazing over 18 years, 19 years. You're heading into like, you've been doing this for such a long time. Like, and so for me, it's like, you just need to just put more of yourself out there in a natural way.
Mm-hmm.
Think that literally walk through your thing and take a video of your team and just be like, hey team, like, and then just say, everybody say hi and everybody say hi. And then you take a video of that and you post that and that's it. You know what I mean? For you, it'll give you pride. It'll make them feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll develop sort of that muscle. All right.
That's a good point. That's good advice.
Cool. Awesome. Hey, dude, it was really great to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story. What's your website? Is your website customcabinetpro.com?
Customcabinetpro.com. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Reynolds Custom Woodworks.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and I look forward to getting it out with the Woodpreneur community.
Thank you, Steve.
All right.
Thanks so much for listening to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also tap into our community by visiting woodpreneurlife.com. Once again, that's woodpreneurlife.com. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode.